What's up, everybody? Welcome to the newest episode of the Get Back Guys. Not sure exactly what number we're on, but thank you for tuning in and something like that. And make sure before we jump in to the podcast that you make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and that, you can follow us anywhere on iTunes or Spotify. I know the Spotify music details have come out and us Apple Music users are upset.
Yeah,
I'm upset about it. I want to know.
I've liked Apple Music up until this point, and I feel left out now.
Yeah,
and their algorithm for that same sort of thing is so bad. It's such trash.
It's weird. Hopefully we can pressure them to fix it. But anyways, let's jump into the episode. We got we missed a week, so we're back after Thanksgiving. Alex ate way too much on Thanksgiving.
Nice.
Not enough.
And so we're going to talk some NBA draft and free agency, kind of our thoughts about the big things, maybe kind of storylines or teams that we're kind of excited about going into the season. And then we'll get to our normal NFL stuff. So I'm gonna let Alex lead off, and I'm gonna bring up the Christmas games were released. We got 5 really good games, and I know that your Heat are kicking it off on Christmas. What are your thoughts on the Christmas games and the NBA just kind of as a whole, especially the Heat?
I think the biggest piece of news is that the Pistons go out and get the middle ball boy, Leandro. Biggest deal on the planet. All balls finally will be in the league, assuming he doesn't get cut. Saw the details on his contract. Not what you'd want.
He's getting cut,
compared to what your brothers are getting. For the Heat playing, I think it's the Pelicans we opened the year with. I liked that Christmas Day. Christmas has always been, you got playoffs in the background, at least since Nick and I ever got into sports. So having ball in the background on Christmas Day sounds nice. It's a weird Christmas too. Don't know if we're going to be together or not. So better games good for having the really good games out there. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember. Is it Lakers play who?
Mavericks.
Mavs. Yeah.
Oh, that's what I thought. Okay.
The 2 big games in my eyes. Yeah, it's that game, and then I think the Celtics-Nets game is the other big game. You obviously have Clippers-Nuggets, but that one's a little bit later in the evening. I think those the Celtics-Nets and Clippers-Mavericks are the 2 games I'm really dialed in for.
Especially because the Nets, we haven't seen KD and Kyrie play together. So I'm curious to see what's that like. It'll be a fun lineup. The Heat, I'm excited for. They just dropped their new Vice jerseys and announced this will be the last year they go with the Vice jerseys. And again, they are sick. And I have yet to own a piece of Vice. I mean, I guess I have the Bam Vice jersey, but I want something that gets real popping, which they don't do with the jerseys as much until this year. But Heat know how to do a jersey, man. The black tie was awesome. They went with the white hot when Bronny was there too. That was great. Our Christmas Day ones from back in the day were always awesome. And the Vices they've been doing have been great. And this is the last year they're going to do them. So I'm loving what's going on in the NBA. And I guess the last piece of news is LeBron signing an extension. He says, hey, everybody said, 4 years LeBron's over anyway. He hasn't been that good. Lies. LeBron has still been arguably the best player in basketball. He's just 4 steps ahead. He's 40 steps ahead of everybody when he's on the court. He says, hey, not only am I going to try to play with my son or against my son, I think I can win 4 more years. I think Anthony Davis is all but assured that he's going to sign a 4-year max. So I like it for the Lakers. It's going to be fun. I love LeBron. Hopefully the Heat can sneak in there, maybe try to steal another championship from him, but we'll see.
It's going to be – yeah, well, and on the topic of the Lakers, I don't think any team nailed free agency quite like they did. They are playing chess while the rest of the West is playing checkers. Like
they're trying to find the checker pieces.
Yeah, it's is they got Montrezl Harrell and Dennis Schroeder, the top 2 guys for Sixth Man of the Year voting. Everyone tried to attack the Lakers last year for their bench scoring, and that was all we ever heard. And so they just went out and added 2 of the best scorers off the bench. They added Wesley Matthews, who should, with Danny Green, obviously struggled to shoot the ball in the finals, even though he does have championship experience, a little more than Wesley Matthews. But I think that's basically just a easy swap out. You're probably going to get similar type of production. And then you had Marc Gasol. They a little less athletic at the rim, but they got a lot smarter and they got a lot better offensively. I just can't believe the best team in the NBA just got better, while all the other major players in the West didn't. Any other team that is contending, the Rockets, we still don't know if they're going to fall apart or not. And that's definitely something I think I'm going to keep my eye on, is if they stumble a little bit, we could see Harden, Westbrook, Eric Gordon, PJ Tucker. They could all be unloaded in the next 2 months or whatever. And then the Clippers maybe marginally got better, but they're just hoping Ty Lue can make Kawhi Leonard, be a team player for once in his life. And, the news about that was pretty interesting, about him and Paul George getting really special treatment. And it shouldn't be a surprise, though, because Kawhi did the exact same thing towards the end of his tenure with the Spurs, he tried to get a private jet, I'm pretty sure, from the Lakers to sign there, which they are not allowed to do, and things like that. So they're interesting, but yeah, Lakers won free agency, I think, and it's a race for second. I'm really curious to see where Harden goes. And my kind of last big thing about the NBA is, especially if Harden gets dealt to the East, so say Harden goes to the 76ers or the Nets, the narrative is going to flip real quick, where people for years, all of LeBron's career pretty much said, well, he couldn't be doing this if he was in the West. Can't do it if he's in the West. Now he's done it in the West, and now he's on year 2 of probably going to win the Western Conference, and all of a sudden the narrative's going to flip, and they're going to say, the West isn't even good. It's all East. And even though
it's always been
the East,
but I know that.
Even though the East is getting a little bit better, it's going to be a fun thing to hear. I guarantee that starts coming around. But yeah, I'm excited. The draft was interesting. I actually think the Sacramento Kings had one of the best drafts of anyone. I can't remember the guard's name, but they got a really good point guard to play across De'Aaron Fox. I like what the Wizards did. Denny fell to them at 9. I was hoping he'd fall to the Spurs at 11, but we got a good player in Vassell. And I think the Anthony Edwards stuff, just talking about the draft real quick, a lot of people were harping on him because some quotes got pulled kind of out of context from a big ESPN article questioning, his work ethic. I think that was really overblown for the draft, and it was probably just trying to get people scared about him. You're going to be a little nervous when you had drafted Andrew Wiggins. The same franchise gets any number 1 overall pick who has a lot of potential but is still raw. But I think the Timberwolves are looking up. And yeah, any thoughts on the NBA, Kyle? Anything you're excited for going into the year? I know you don't watch a ton, but
well, before the draft and free agency started, we had, all these ideas and all these what ifs about what's going to come before the season begins. Like, there was a lot of headlines and a lot of rumors and whatnot, but then the Lakers took the fun out of it by just getting everyone and then becoming better than they were last year. So you're kind of right, Nick. Like, pretty much Lakers won free agency there, and they just became even more of the top dog than before. So it's like, all right, so what are the scraps going to be? What are we going to be looking at here? So, I mean, for me, from the outside looking in, I'm still curious about that Rockets situation between, Harden and Westbrook, just to see, what's going to become of that. Are they going to mend things, or are they going to decide to break apart and go to different places? Then when it comes to the Nets, like, we haven't seen the Nets, like you guys said, with Durant and Kyrie. So I really want to see if this Nets team is going to turn around with those 2 being added in. Plus 2 teams that I'm kind of interested in, or, well, 3 actually, are the Mavs, the Timberwolves and the Pelicans, but that's just because, I love Brandon Ingram and I have a soft spot for Lonzo Ball still.
Yeah.
But I am curious. I believe they got a new coach as well. Am I wrong about that? Or
Yeah,
the
they got
Pelicans get a new coach?
Stan Van Gundy. So he coached the Pistons before this. I believe he coached the Magic when they went to the finals 11 years ago with Dwight Howard. And then he was in the booth in the bubble with his brother, Jeff Van Gundy.
Okay. Well, I'm curious to see if that'll be the guy that'll, be able to turn this young team around, and then maybe he'll, kind of be like the similar situation with the Suns last year, to where they're kind of a surprise in maybe like the second half of the year or something like that. So those are like the teams that are going to be like on my watch list just to be curious about. But, no matter who had the best draft or whatever, I think it mostly comes down to free agency, and that's just the Lakers.
Yeah.
I got a few more NBA points, if you don't mind.
Do it.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, you go first. Let's hear it.
The Lakers, I agree with everything you've been saying, but at the same time, what I like about this season is it's still just like last season. It doesn't feel like stacked like it did with 4 years with the Warriors. With the Warriors, when
totally
they dominated, it felt stacked, even more so with Bron when Bron wasn't on the Heat. I mean, the Mavs beating them showed that, hey, we can beat these guys. But the Warriors just dominated over and over and over. And LeBron had to do everything in his power to beat them. I mean, that's the best player in the world. Had to do everything he could to beat them. And Kyrie obviously hit the amazing shot to win it. But I like that it doesn't feel stacked. About my Heat, I think they also did a really good job in free agency. I really liked the pickup of Avery Bradley, I think, is big. We lost Jay Crowder, which isn't going to help on the defensive end, but we kept a couple players I like. Goran, that max he had is finally over. We're keeping him for just a much smaller contract. Duncan, we've got our young core, brought in a couple vets I think can really help. Jimmy Butler is rumored to be dating Selena Gomez. That helps. Everything you can do to go around and make money moves. I mean, Pat Riley set it up. He said, look, we got this singer-actress, Jimmy. We need you. Focus. You two will help each other. Let's get going. That's what Pat Riley does.
He paid Selena Gomez for that?
I don't know. But the last thing is I really like the contract. I don't love Leonard's contract.
Yeah, that was weird.
He getting paid a lot.
He's not guy. That good.
I mean, he's not. And I just wasn't big on that. But it's a small 2-year. I mean, it's enough money, but it's a 2-year deal. I think what they're saying is, hey, we can make a run this year with this team to at least try to get better. We've made a few pieces. I do think the team is better than last year. Extending Bam was big. And we still have, I believe, the money. We got to clear a tiny bit of space, but I can get off one of these contracts to bring in a guy next year easily. So they've got player options and team options. I think Pat is saying we can make a run this year with the guys we got, and then next year we can go after Giannis still. And then even if that doesn't work out, we've set ourselves up for another year to go after some big name. And I love the moves Pat Riley is making. Selena Gomez is at the top of that list of moves. And then Leonard is at the very bottom. I like the Udonis Haslem staying, maybe a little too much money, but I like that vet on the roster. So
yeah,
I'm for it.
Yeah, it's also interesting. I was going to bring up Giannis. So we have a really interesting 2.5 weeks here where I think up to the 21st, so the day before the season starts, he can sign his Supermax. And so we'll know by the start of the season if he is committed to the Bucks or not, which is really going to change things going forward. Because obviously if he decides to go to free agency, that's going to change the entire landscape of the NBA. But if he decides to stay, things are going to stay relatively similar, I think, to where they're at now, unless Kawhi yeets from the Clippers, which is possible because he likes screwing people over. But what I'm really interested to see, the angry Spurs fans coming out.
Hang on.
Great.
We've got breaking news in the NBA.
Ooh, what's up?
Russ traded
what
to the Washington Wizards
for John Wall?
I don't know. Oh, here it is.
No way.
Woj has got it.
Russ, well, there we go.
Russ to the and a first.
What?
That answers one of my questions.
To Washington for Johnny Wall and a first-round pick Sources tell ESPN, our boy Woj dropping dimes. When we
Wow.
film Get Back, guys, they know, hey, it's time to drop
Things
breaking news.
happen.
You know, it comes out the next
Wow.
day.
It's an
So,
exclusive. It's an
I
exclusive,
am
guys.
here. We broke the story, Woj.
We broke
gave
the
you
story.
info.
Okay,
That is insane. Yeah. Hang on,
forgot.
Go ahead, Kyle.
I forgot the Wizards were a team.
Yeah.
When you said Washington, I was like, they have a basketball team. Oh, the Wizards. Okay,
The Wizards
so
got
that's so weird. That's
The
such a weird
Wizards
trade.
fleeced the Spurs, not this offseason, but last offseason with Davis Bertans, the Spurs power forward, one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA. And we traded him thinking we were getting Marcus Morris. And then Marcus Morris he backed out of a contract he'd already accepted, but we traded Bertans already. And the Spurs, honestly, he was a big part in the Spurs fall off. That's really interesting. So the Wizards definitely get better because they didn't have John Wall the last, year and a half, almost 2 years. I'm curious to see him and Bradley Beal play. Seems like it's a better fit than him and James Harden, but it's not different than him and Paul George, really, so I mean the Wizards, they're going to be a playoff team, but that's an odd move. That it just feels like they need to sell tickets, right?
I forgot they were a team.
I love John Wall. Big
Me
fan
too.
of him
Hey.
from back in the day. Oh, you got to
Everyone
get
remember
that
the dance?
wall going. But man,
Oh, yeah.
he has just not been the same. He's had 2 big injuries back to back.
Yeah.
We haven't seen him play in 2 years. He's not the same guy. This is a steal to me by the Wizards. If you're talking just player ability, you just gave up a guy who hasn't played in 2 years, who isn't doing anything for your franchise, and you offset a first-round pick that you're lottery. You don't know where you're going to get that. For Russ, a guy who can cook, hey, he's going to sell tickets. That's what you want. Are they going to be super competitive? They might be with him and Beal together.
They're probably a playoff team in the East.
Probably.
I would they're better than the Magic now. They're better than the Hornets, even with Gordon Hayward, which is another odd signing. They're probably the 7th best team. That's interesting. I want to see it. I want to see Russ ball out. He's so fun to watch.
I like the move.
Yeah,
it might be good for John Wall too.
Yeah, get John. Yeah, it's Russ's. They're very similar type of player. Both athletic, side to sideline. But they don't really shoot. And they're definitely similar type of point guards. That's interesting. Well, does that probably means that Harden's gone, right? They're just going to blow it all up. Would be my guess.
I would assume so. Didn't they trade Clint Capella too?
That was last year. They did that to play small ball. They did get a really underrated signing in Christian Wood from the Pistons, who's a center who has a ton of potential. I wouldn't be shocked. They can get a lot for James Harden, but PJ Tucker, they already traded Robert Covington. They might try to see what it's like with Harden for a little bit, but Harden could be on his way out, and I hope they send him.
If Harden goes to the Nets, you got to give up a Kyrie Irving, don't you? You have to.
Why not? But they don't want Kyrie Irving. They have John Wall now, right?
But you got to trade him for something big. You can't just take picks for James Harden. And I want Harden, Kyrie, and KD on the same team? No. It's a good team. I don't want that.
It's true. I think if he were to go to the Nets, it would be Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, what's his name? Garrett Allen. Couple of good young players. LeVert is a borderline all-star. He's really good. He would have been an all-star. D'Angelo Russell would not have an all-star appearance if Karis LeVert didn't get hurt 2 years ago. But yeah, I don't know. Because also you don't trade for Ben Simmons if you just traded for John Wall unless they're planning on flipping John Wall again.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Maybe the Rockets. Wait, did the Rockets
think they can get Embiid?
Well, that's just a theory.
Yes, you want
James Harden. Yeah, well, James Harden probably would work, I think, a lot better with Joel Embiid than he would with Ben Simmons. Because Ben Simmons can't space the floor. Joel Embiid can, at least a little bit. That's probably the thought would be my guess. If that they
What
were
if they
going to do
offload
a
him to
trade to the
somewhere
Sixers,
that doesn't matter?
random.
Yeah. I mean, there's no
The
reason
Wizards.
they can't. Like, yeah, I mean, we're all expecting Russ to go
they
somewhere big, and Russ goes to the Wizards. They've been irrelevant. Yes, they got Bradley Beal. You like Beal quite a bit, but they don't have much else there.
Russ was a little more expected. Like, we expected the Knicks and the Cavaliers were two other teams. Like, what team is going to take on Russ with his monster contract and his declining play? One of the bad teams in the East that want to make the playoffs, right?
Yeah, better not be Miami.
So just wrapping up
him.
NBA real quick, because I just have one more thought, and you guys can chime in. But what I'm really curious about is because it does feel like it's definitely obviously not Warrior dominance, right? But it does feel like the Lakers are the heavy favorites. So trying to figure out what teams can challenge them, because the Clippers failed last year. The two teams that I'm really looking at is the step up of the Mavericks. They made some really good moves. Josh Richardson is awesome for them, I think, and Luka is probably going to be right in the thick of things for winning his first MVP this year if he stays healthy. And if Kristaps Porzingis is healthy, that is a team that feels like they could actually challenge LeBron just because of how dominant Luka has the potential to be. And I think Porzingis can match up pretty well against Anthony Davis. And then it's the Nets. Like you have Kyrie Irving and KD. They've both played amazing in the biggest moments in the playoffs. And when KD's healthy, if he can get close to what he was when he got hurt, he's probably the only player in a postseason type of setting, because we've seen Giannis kind of fall back. Luka doesn't feel like he's there yet. Obviously, we saw with Kawhi last year that he's just not on the same level to match LeBron. Through not just one or two games in a series. We did see Jimmy Butler do that. I knew Alex was going to attack me real quick, but to see Kevin Durant do it for a full series and outplay him potentially, those are the two teams I really have my eye on to see. Will they be able to challenge the Lakers? But obviously you have the Bucks, the Clippers, the Heat, the Nuggets right behind there.
Just waiting for it.
So any final thoughts on NBA, or should we switch it up?
I'm so glad that we broke this story exclusively.
Yeah, I'm
proud of us, boys. We did it.
I know.
We made it big.
We gotta reach out to a fan. We gotta shout out a fan of the show. Biggest Russell Westbrook fan you'll ever meet. Good friend of ours, Peyton Keltner. He'll be on the show one day. Maybe we'll get him on soon to talk some Russell Westbrook next week. But he's a big Russell Westbrook fan, and so I'm curious to hear what he thinks about it later.
Yeah.
Also, poor Klay Thompson tearing his Achilles. That's a bummer.
Yeah,
true.
That is a bummer.
Big bummer for him.
And it really shakes up the West, because that was a team that, that was a finals nucleus, right? And you lose Klay Thompson, and all of a sudden, I feel so bad for him.
It's just going to be Steph hanging out. But all right, I guess we can switch as long as it's to like polo or something. I don't want to talk NFL.
It's not. We're talking NFL.
Why not?
You know what,
Kyle?
We have
I'm in control of this call, and I will mute you so fast.
So I know we have our typical format of what we do in the NFL, but I think we're going to start it off, and let's let Kyle go first. Let's start out with our teams. Kyle, how'd the Seahawks do last week?
I do not care.
Alex's Eagles. He's reaching for them.
How'd you do? Oh. You muted Kyle.
I did mute him. All right.
All right, Kyle. Let's lead it off.
Can you hear me now?
I guess so. I guess I have to listen to this.
Kyle, to preface this, Kyle tried his hardest to make this a completely NBA episode, so he would not have to talk.
Not because of this.
He did not want to talk about it.
I promise. It was not because of this. Honestly, the game came to how I expected it to play. Like, there wasn't really anything surprising that happened in this game between the Eagles and the Hawks to me. I wasn't surprised that the Eagles defense was actually able to jam up our wide receivers and not be able to give us the most outstanding offensive performance. I think the Eagles D-line is underrated, and we've heard many times from Alex that, the corners or their linebackers usually blitz way too much, and that leaves guys open for those first downs. But I don't know. I wasn't really too surprised by their performance outside of, DK's monster game against Darius Slay. I thought Slay would at least be able to hold DK to some degree, and then DK just was gigantor out there. He was insane. And on the defensive side, I was really impressed. I think our defense is actually starting to come together pretty well. I know some people are going to be like, but it's the Eagles offense. They suck. True, but we're seeing this performance out of them for the last, 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe? It's signs of encouragement to me. Carlos Dunlap did get like a sore foot type of injury, so he might be out for a few weeks, but right now I'm not too nervous because we're in like the home stretch and it's not too bad for us for a couple of weeks or so. So I think we will live. But I was impressed by the defense at least. Do I think that Ken Norton, our defensive coordinator, should still be around? No. But I think it's at least a good sign towards the playoffs that our defense is looking much better than it had like the first 10, 11, 12 weeks or whatever it is. So Alex's story might be different on that side of things, but honestly, it played out to how I expected it. We normally play tied with the Eagles anyway, and, defense played pretty well. Offense, they got to find a way to get back in rhythm and get things going again, especially for like underrated defenses like the Giants. So we'll see how that goes. I'm sure they'll piece something together, but for the most part today, I feel pretty fine.
Yeah, and before I throw it over to Alex, you guys, you do have a really interesting schedule coming up. You have one at didn't they say record-wise the easiest in the NFL on the broadcast?
Yeah.
And obviously the Giants, I don't know if Daniel Jones is going to play, but their defense
Colt
and
McCoy's gonna play.
Washington's defense, they're both pretty good actually. And so, but you guys should cruise to your next 3 or 4 wins, and then you have 2 division games to end it. So, Alex,
Rams and Niners.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. Obviously, I'm paying close attention because of the race for the 1 seed, and we're in a really tight battle with percentage for strength of victory, which is what the tiebreaker is, and you guys have that by I think like 0.013. But I don't know how much it will. If say we both win out, I don't know how much that will change because we play a few more. They have a few more wins down the stretch for the teams we play, but I don't know if it'll change it or not. So it's really, really interesting. Alex,
point.
what was your thoughts on the game? Is it Hurts time? Is it time for Jalen Hurts?
Kyle said my defense is underrated. My defensive line
is underrated.
We're second in sacks. They're rated very accurately for how good they are.
I just think people don't realize that though.
I think they do. And I think the reason it's not talked about is because how horrible we are.
Okay.
Your defense is historically horrible, and I think it shows how historically worse our offense is. No offense, your defense didn't do anything interesting to me. Our offense was literally that bad. I don't know if they fired Doug. If he does, I'm okay with it now. If he doesn't, I'm okay with it. Same with Howie. Wentz will not be going anywhere. He's got a massive contract. The only option is to trade him. I just don't get it. He put in Jalen Hurts for 1 5-yard pass, penalty, then a 5-yard pass, and then put Wentz in to get sacked. And you're not going to win. This was week 11, and we've had a different offensive line every week except for once. We've had a massive load of injuries. Carson Wentz has regressed for some reason this year. Part of that's on the play. Part of it isn't. A lot of it is on Howie. I'm more down to move on from Howie, and I am now starting to jump on the bandwagon that he was a one-hit wonder. Doug, I disagree with. I think Doug has shown with his play calling for the last 4 years that he is good. But Howie Roseman has constantly kept older players who aren't good, stuck to the same guys who just get hurt, given out big contracts. I'm fine with the Wentz deal, but the Alshon Jeffrey deal was dumb. There's a lot of dumb ones. And he's just constantly missed on the draft. We've had 1 Pro Bowler since 2013. He took J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who is terrible, who I defended all last year, who just doesn't play, goes out and gets COVID, and then doesn't play more, over DK Metcalf. he constantly doesn't go after defense. I still am okay with the Reagor pick. He's 21 years old. I get everyone is mad because Justin Jefferson's balling out. We took Reagor the one pick before, but I don't think Justin Jefferson will be balling out in our offense. He keeps starting he started Alshon Jeffrey almost over Travis Fungal this week, which makes no logical sense. He doesn't pull the trigger on guys. He said, hey, instead I'm going to make you deal with Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, Mike Wallace, Greg Ward, all these guys I don't care about anymore. Deshaun, I was excited to be there, but I didn't think he would be the most important piece of our offense, which apparently Howie thought. Instead of going out and getting Stephon Diggs and DeAndre Hopkins, he didn't pull the trigger because it was too much capital for him, and he thought Greg Ward would be better. And I'm just over it all. In terms of the game, I was hoping we would play okay, and we didn't. It was incredibly inconsistent play calling. Our D-line got to the quarterback a lot because I do think we are that good, and your line is pretty bad. Russ gets cooking. I do not blame Darius Slay. DK Metcalf has like 5 inches on him, and he went man-to-man the whole game. I blame Jim Schwartz, and I blame Jim. That's who I blame. I'm over him. A lot of people think we're going to fire Doug and put in Jim Schwartz as interim head coach. I don't really care at this point. In the press conference, Doug said he hasn't gotten reassurance that his job is secure, but he hasn't been told he's going to be fired either. I mean, he hasn't been told he's on the hot seat from what it sounds like. There's a rumor going around that our owner, Jeffrey Lurie, is saying that if Wentz played bad in this game, he was going to force Hurts to start. Jalen Hurts would be bad too. I don't get the moves, and I think this team reminds me of, honestly, what I felt when Andy got fired, that the pieces are here. I get firing Andy. He's run his course. A change is what could work, and it did work because Chip Kelly came in and won 10 games and took you to the playoffs, and then he blew up the roster and made a bunch of bad decisions as a GM. I think that might be the best course, whether it's in the front office or at the coach or both. I think our team is actually pretty good. You can cut a couple guys, bring in a new staff to keep guys healthy. You need a real offensive coordinator. I give Frank Reich a lot of credit. I still don't – everybody's praising him now as that he was this most elite guy and he did everything in 2017. I still disagree to that. He didn't call the plays. I just don't get what's going on with the team. They're horrible. I don't want to get in the playoffs. If we do, I'll still be happy because we're in the playoffs. But right now we have the 6th pick in the draft. Give me a 6th-pick player. Give me a top guy. Go get the next big lineman we could deserve that will stay healthy and play at left tackle or left guard or center if Kelsey retires. Or give us a stud defensive player. That would be awesome. Or a top cornerback. I don't care anymore. The season's over. The Packers are going to smoke us next week. We're that bad on offense, and it's a bummer we can't compliment each other ever. I'm just ranting forever here, but I don't care. We could have beaten you. We could have beaten you, and we didn't because Doug was horrible at play calling. If he gives up the play calling, I don't care. I just don't understand. I don't know who he would give it to. Maybe Marty Morningweg is probably who I'd prefer over Deuce, even though I like Deuce a lot, but he's never called plays. But maybe that's what we need at the same time. I don't know. I don't care. Get me to NBA.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done.
Well, my quick thoughts on the Eagles game, because I've only watched a couple of your games this year. But, yeah, Jalen Mills played phenomenal.
So is Alex Singletary. Can we give a shout-out to our boy from Bozeman?
Montana guy, right?
College.
Oh, Bozeman.
What number is he 47? Was that
49?
him? 49. He played good.
He's out there.
He did have a good game.
He's been balling all year. That's
one
highlight.
That's a gem right there.
Honestly, I disagree with you a little bit, but you've seen way more games. I think you should put Hurts in, even though the contract is really bad for Wentz and you're kind of stuck with him. But even if Hurts doesn't make any more spectacular plays than Wentz does, there is no way he's going to make as many mistakes as Wentz did in that game, like uncalled for mistakes, which is probably
that game. Should have watched all the other ones.
I know,
It
but
was clean for Wentz.
But that game, if you have a game manager in it who isn't that good, you probably have a play to win the game there at the end, even more than a Richard Rodgers Hail Mary. Shout out to the legend Richard Rodgers.
True.
I want to see Wentz because Hurts, because he was in one play and putting someone at that fast back there, I don't know. I just think you guys need a change of pace. Wentz's pocket presence seems worse.
Look very fast.
But I just think he might add something to it. I don't know. It makes me sad because I really like Wentz, and I know you really like Wentz.
I don't care if they put Hurts in, but Hurts will look bad. If Hurts somehow shows up and dominates, I'm all for it. I'm on the bandwagon.
I don't think Hurts is going to dominate, but I don't think he's going to play this bad. I think it's worth the risk but it's probably too late anyways to go get a pick. But
the massive problem is not on. Wentz is a big part of the problem, but he is not the only part. And I just don't know if putting Hurts in, if like the little confidence Wentz has too, I'm just nervous that'll crush it. And then we are stuck with this Wentz for 2 years. So we can't cut him. It's like a $50 million cap hit if we cut him. And
as a backup, roll with Hurts.
If they put Hurts in and he balls, I'm fine with it. That was the narrative all week. We're going to see a lot of Hurts. Came in for 2 plays on they're just uncreative with him. At least if you're going to put him in, be creative you're going to make him Taysom Hill. They don't even do that. He runs the same draw play, option play every time he's in. And I call what happens when I'm watching the games every single play. I go, we're not going to do this. We're going to do this is going to happen. They're going to hit. Hurts is going to keep it himself or give it off, and then it's going to be blown up because the defense sees it. And every time it happens. I'm just over this season. I don't really care what happens at this point. If they somehow ball out and win the Super Bowl, I'll be happy, but they're not going to do that. So have fun slaughtering us, Nick.
Oh, yeah. All right, so now to my Packers real quick. We do play the Eagles. Might be a rough couple of weeks for you, although you did beat us last year. First, hey, you have the honor of being the first team to ever beat Matt LaFleur. So that's big time.
Last year's team was light years better than this.
I know. So the big thing for the Packers is they signed Tavon Austin and Anthony Rush, I think Anthony Rush is a former Seahawk, Eagle and Bear, which is
too
funny.
Much for Seattle.
Well, I just want him to just run into running backs and let the other guys tackle. He's huge. But he's going to just be a rotational guy. We just need someone who could maybe stop the run. But Tavon Austin has a chance to be a pretty impactful pickup, I think, not because he's going to play, we're going to set him up one-on-one against Jalen Ramsey and he's going to dominate the game like the Cowboys thought he was going to do a couple years ago, and they thought he was going to turn into Michael Irving. That was silly. But he's going to be a nice kick and punt returner for us. The Packers, since I've been a fan, have had a terrible return game every year, and it cost us a Super Bowl appearance, as Kyle knows really well.
That was a good time.
We're terrible on special teams. We've been terrible on special teams for a decade at least. It was a little bit better towards the end of last year. It's been okay this year, but Tyler Ervin got hurt. So now we've got him as a gadget guy, running back, wide receiver, and then we've got Tavon Austin. Hopefully he can get healthy soon. We got Tavon Austin to fill that similar role, and I think he fits well in the Matt LaFleur system. Get him on some sweeps, get him on some screens. He'll be able to just, add another element to the offense, but he's not going to be probably a game breaker except for just shoring up that special teams, which is where I think he could be a really quality signing. Kenny Stills is on the market. I do hope we go get him just as insurance, because even though, Equanimous St. Brown had a couple of catches against the Bears, but I'm not putting my full faith in him. And MVS is really up or down. But
Lazard's back.
Lazard's back. He played good, and he's big time for, Aaron talked about it on the Pat McAfee show, and I think I've talked about before how important he is for blocking and doing these little things. And he's a really good receiver too. Well, he's definitely our number one guy going forward. Packers, it's about staying healthy. I think we have a very winnable upcoming schedule. We play the Lions, the Bears, which are division games, but definitely we should be winning those. Obviously, we have the Eagles. The big game is against the Titans, which Derrick Henry might run for 5,000 yards on us in one game. So not looking forward to that, but they also don't have the greatest pass defense. So Devontae Adams, Alan Lazard, they should be able to eat as well. So that should be a fun game on prime time. Could give Aaron a chance to win MVP if he plays really good on that Sunday night football game in Week 16.
Still Packers think it's possible.
I think it's possible. I think he might need to get to 50 touchdowns, which would require him. I think he'd have to throw 3 a game for his next. I think he'd have to throw 3 in 4 of them and 4 in 1 of them. So unlikely, but possible.
I think that's pretty likely. I don't know. I feel good about your team. I don't know why.
Yeah. He is averaging 3 a game because he has 33. But yeah, Packers are in a good spot. It's, we've talked about this at length on the show. The NFC is really close. It's going to be who's healthy and who's hot. And we've got really 3 teams that looks like who are getting there. I thought it would be the Bucs for so long, and now it's the Saints. Once they're really healthy outside of just Drew Brees, hopefully coming back for the postseason. You've got the Seahawks are starting to get healthy with Griffin back this week and Dunbar.
Yeah, that was big.
In a couple weeks, I think. Yeah. And then obviously for the Packers, getting Lazar and Kevin King back. Our big deal is our line has gotten a little beat up. Our center and right guard both got hurt in that game, but they both should be back for the postseason. And whoever gets that bye is going to have a heck of a chance to get to the Super Bowl. And it really depends on, the Seahawks have a pretty easy schedule, but they have 2 division games. The Packers have a pretty easy schedule, but they also have 2 division games and the Titans. So it's going to be really interesting. And obviously the Saints play the Chiefs on one of their games. And so they also do not have an easy schedule.
It'll be
down
tough.
The stretch. Yeah. So it's going to be really interesting to see. It probably will come down to Week 17 for that 1 seed, and that definitely could decide who ends up representing the NFC, for the Super Bowl this year. But yeah, I'm just excited to watching Aaron. I just want to enjoy it, watching him play in a Packers uniform, because I don't know how much longer we're going to get it. And he's playing, probably the best football since the end of 2016. And at the end of the year, if he throws 50 touchdowns, it's going to be probably his second best regular season effort ever outside of 2011. Even though the stats might be better this year, in 2011, he was just too good on a per throw basis. So that's kind of it for the Packers. I'm just excited about the Tavon Austin signing, and just, Devontae Adams also has a chance to really end the year strong. And I want him to get as many touchdowns as possible.
I mean, he's got 40 touchdowns?
He's got 11 in 9 games.
Jeez.
He's scored in every game but 2, and one of those he only played half the game. So him, Tyreek Hill, and DK have been the 3 best receivers this year, even though I don't know if they're the 3. I would, Michael Thomas obviously has been hurt. Julio's been, and DeAndre's right there. I can't disrespect DeAndre. DeAndre's right there, but
I get what you mean though. They've
been dominant. And, and it's weird to see, Devontae has just to pump up my guy a little bit, because he's the dude. We all know it. He's not typically a big yardage getter, but he doesn't have, obviously DK's leading the league in yardage, but yards per game is actually Devontae Adams. He's averaging over 100 per game. And he also, Aaron missed him on an 80-yard touchdown at the end of that game, where he kind of, Devontae had a chance to catch it, but it should have been a touchdown, and Aaron talked about that, but he's just balling out. Mm-hmm. So enough of my Packers. You guys don't need to hear me gushing over a franchise. That's been kind of lucky with our quarterbacks. So let's move on to just one over under, and we'll start with you, Kyle. What's what's overrated or underrated? 12 weeks into the season?
Instead of overrated, I'm going to talk about overreacting. And I want to bring it back to a couple of weeks ago when dumb old Kyle was giving props to stupid Matt Nagy for getting his team to start off the year with 5-1. And I just want to say that was dumb. That was dumb of me to give him props because he's showing exactly what I think that he is. I don't think he's that good of a coach. I don't think that he's creative and doesn't know like how to, make his quarterbacks better. Their defense is great still, but that's clearly not helping after what we saw Aaron Rodgers did.
Yeah, they got roasted.
Ago. So I just want to go back and slap Kyle in the face from a couple of weeks ago, overreacting about it. I know I didn't overreact that much. I said at that point that could change really quickly, but it just goes to show that I felt confident in what I thought about Nagy, and I think that's really starting to show. And I wouldn't be shocked if after this season he's done with.
Yeah, I think so. I think they might lose a couple more too, right in a row. Alex, what's your over/under?
Real quick report out of Houston is that the Rockets have no plans to trade James Harden.
Interesting.
Bummer.
At least before the opener. Just wanted to
Free Harden.
Just wanted to put that out there.
He's gonna make it happen.
Yeah,
is he now? He's gonna.
I
also, before Alex goes real quick on the Bears, I think we can all agree: free Allen Robinson. Let's let him go to a good team. Get him out of Chicago. I want to like him.
Yes, but he also chose the Bears over the Packers from a few years ago, if I remember. That's
true.
Right. So,
but maybe now he realizes. I hope he goes to the Dolphins. Him and Tua, be awesome.
Go to like Hopkins and Curry or Murray this season. Do that same thing.
Sweet.
All right,
Alex.
Over under. My over under.
Oh no.
I think I don't know how to word this. I never do. I came up with this segment and I don't know how to word it. I want to talk about the game that happened today. The Ravens and the Steelers.
Do you?
Props to them Steelers being 11-0. Didn't see that coming. But I think maybe we all slightly, obviously COVID played a part, but I think we slightly overreacted to the Ravens offense and players because obviously COVID's big, but they're 6-5 after today's loss. And you take that game away, they're still only 6-4. They're not the crazy dominant team I thought we all kind of thought they might be. I think defenses got a little smarter on what they were running, and now it's going to be up to Baltimore to kind of switch that up. You get a bunch of players. They had like 18 players catch COVID or get exposed to COVID. That's not good. You're in the thick. This is December time now you're playing games. This is the time you got to buckle down, start balling hard to try to win high seeds. And it's just – I think we just slightly might have overreacted to how good we thought they were going to be, and maybe slightly underreacted to how good we thought the Steelers might be because they are balling. I mean, you're running away with that one seed in the AFC. I mean, they're 11-0.
I wouldn't say they're running away with it. If they lose one game, the Chiefs take it over. Right now,
they've got the baton and they're running.
They did lose Bud Dupree toward his ACL, so that's going to sting a bit. Today. That's going to be a big deal.
But that's my over under. I took two slide under and slide over on these two teams.
We definitely expected guys like Lamar Jackson and Hollywood Brown to take steps forward and not just have the throwing weapons be only Mark Andrews. And I think between defenses figuring out how to stop that multiple option run game and seeing that Hollywood Brown maybe isn't all that great, and even their weapons after that isn't that great. So they're like, okay, just defend Mark Andrews a little bit more, and I don't think we really have to worry that much. So, yeah, I think we did overreact, especially with their offense. Their defense is still pretty good, but you're right, Alex, 6-5, and they're kind of showing that their offense can be stopped. It's not a good look, and especially when we're in December coming up on the playoffs. They might not even be able to get in. Like Browns might be able to get a playoff spot over them.
Well, I think the Ravens really might not get in if Lamar doesn't come in. And they've lost 3 in a row. So they were 6-2 and they just went on a weird skid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe they lost 3 in a row. So Someone's just happened this last few weeks. I know they lost Calais Campbell, which is, big time. He's an elite defensive guy. Yeah, I think the biggest issue with the offense is
3 in a row. Yep.
When when you start catching up to Lamar in the style of play, I think a lot of us figured his statistics would drop a little bit because he just had an historic season last year. And the biggest issue is Hollywood Brown and the receivers. It's got to be a top 5, top 3 bottom receiving core in the NFL. Like, it has to be one of the worst. If you flipped the receivers for the Bengals with just the Bengals, who have a good receiving core but not great, with the Ravens, I think their offense can do a lot more things. And they lost Hurst, and I didn't think they realized that, like, Hollywood Brown wasn't going to step up, and all of a sudden, you lose another quality tight end. And when you have a quarterback who obviously is developing his passing game, and you put him with terrible receivers, it's going to be tough. And so I think that's been a big thing. Obviously, I was super high on the Ravens, and I still think I think it's for the game, for them to play with Robert Griffin III and then bench him and them still only lose by a score to the Steelers is pretty incredible, actually.
Their third stringer just made a
but
also, a good enough throw for Hollywood to make a play, but
also, they should have had the lead at the end of the half if they catch, that they got a touchdown catch bonked out. If they catch that, they're up 14-12, and that game's closer than it should have been. And I'm still not as high on the Steelers as a lot of people are, because Big Ben just is not that good. Like, let's just be honest, and I'll say it now. His team's getting it done, but there's no way that this team is beating the Chiefs in the playoffs. Like, there's no way. Big Ben is not good enough to go toe-to-toe with Patty Mahomes, but Patty Mahomes is good enough to take out this defense enough, because I saw them do it to a defense that embarrassed Aaron Rodgers a year ago. The Steelers are good. I'm not saying that they're not a good team. I do not see them making it to the Super Bowl because Big Ben is probably, I think, he's 5th in touchdown passes, but I don't think that shows the whole story. I think he's more about the 15th, 10th best quarterback. I don't think it's good enough.
Sure.
But maybe I'm still riding what Alex is. I don't want to just admit that I was wrong at the beginning of the year. It could be the truth.
Hey,
I hate a few weeks.
I hate thinking that the Steelers are good. I still can't stand them after them beating us in the Super Bowl all those years ago. But I don't know. From what I see, like, they're not flashy by any means, but I just think they got the tools to, cause some chaos even for the Chiefs. But you're probably right, though. Like, the Chiefs are just so dominant that it's possible that they can just easily fly right through them.
And I think it's going to be interesting if, one game in the postseason, if that defense does slip up, not even to the Chiefs, but if they slip up to Josh Allen and let him go all over them, I don't know if Big Ben is going to be able to do it, because Juju Smith-Schuster, he's been good, and obviously Claypool's been good, but they've used them, and it's a lot of dump-offs. It's a lot of really short stuff. Yeah. We've seen that kill Drew Brees in the last handful of years, where he can't get it done in the postseason. But obviously it's impressive for what he's done coming off of the injury. But when you talk about contenders, contenders in the AFC, he's got to be the 5th or 6th best quarterback that's going to go in the postseason this year, not counting his resume, obviously. So I'm still a little skeptical, but it'll be wild if they go 16-0. That'll be a wild story, and make for a great game if they do play the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I'm here for it. Mike Justin, he's been on the show. He loves them, and even though I've been a little harsh on the Steelers this year, I'm totally for it. I just got to bring up my concerns on Big Ben a little bit.
Just gotta say,
And I do love the Ravens, but and I hope Lamar Jackson can kind of turn this around, because they don't. 3 losses in a row. That's wild. I would have never predicted that to happen. So my over-under, I just want to talk about this player because I'm sad, but I love him, and I'm sad about what's going on. We've all known it for a while. Let's bring it back to Thanksgiving. Deshaun Watson is so good.
Yeah.
And we've all known he's good, but like sometimes we don't watch the Texans enough because Bill O'Brien's such a joke and they've ran that franchise into the ground. But you take away maybe the best receiver in the NFL, I'm still going to ball out. And I'm sure next week, you take away my next best receiver because, he was doing steroids or something when Will Fuller, I'm still probably going to ball out, right? They also cut Kenny Stills, so they've got Randall Cobb and Brandon Cooks, and he's still
Randall
no
Cobb's
offensive
on
line.
IR.
Oh, that's right.
Is he really?
He's got nobody to throw to. He's no defense now, and he's just so good. He might be right behind Patty for the second best quarterback in the NFL. I mean, he's right in there in the top 4 guys with Aaron and Russ, right? Those are the 4 guys.
Yeah.
But if you put Deshaun Watson, if you flip Aaron and Deshaun Watson, like I'm sure the Packers are in a very similar position that they are right now. Mm-hmm. And he, outside of Patty, like I know PFF was talking about this. If you were to redraft the entire NFL right now, besides Patty Mahomes, who would you take? It's probably Deshaun Watson because of his age and his skill level. He's doing wild things, and I love watching him play. And I hope, it's probably going to take another full year for them to really turn it around. But man, I hope they figure this out because I want to see him, battle again with a good team against Patty Mahomes where he doesn't score 24 points in a quarter and then just get roasted because his team isn't that great. I want to see him and Patty have some great matchups, and then you throw Lamar in, who I think is still going to get better. I'm definitely still think Lamar is a really, really great quarterback, if not elite, even though they get him receivers. I want to see those guys and Josh Allen. I want to see the AFC have these dominant quarterbacks that we've been seeing in the NFC. So that's my over-under. I guess we can go.
Well, since they played the Lions, can we mention Matt Patricia is fired as the coach. And I believe the GM got fired too, correct? Yes, round of applause for the Lions. So. Thank goodness. They need a change, man. They need a change bad.
I think they're going to change. Here's a question. Do you think they stick with Matt Stafford, or do you think they try to move off of him soon?
Depends on their draft pick.
It's true. Yeah. I feel like they could wait a year.
Yeah.
Just, to at least have a veteran presence at quarterback for a team that's rebuilding with a new coach and a new GM. But I won't be shocked at all if he leaves the Lions at some point. And honestly, I hope he does. That Lions franchise has done nothing for him. It's not even like a bad franchise. It's just so mediocre that it's sad. Like, if you're going to be bad, at least be bad to be entertaining about it. They're like the Jets, but they're just so mediocre that's just depressing. So I hope some sort of change happens for them.
I know. I hope he gets saved. I think Matt Stafford in a unique system. Like if you sent I know you don't want to hear this, Kyle, but if you sent Matt Stafford to the 49ers, if he's healthy with the 49ers, the things that Kyle Shanahan could do.
Oh, easily.
At Stafford, they'd be so good. And I've watched him so much over the years. I know how talented of a quarterback he is. And every year we're like, oh, is he gonna, he's had a couple of top 5, top 10 type years. Super good in 2011, where he's able to string together, 10, 15 games, something like that, versus just like a couple games of just dominance. We see the talent, and I just want to see him with a great coach and a great system be able to utilize the talent because he obviously hasn't been able to do it in Detroit. So I would love it if they shopped him around and sent him somewhere that has a really good cast. Like, could you imagine if they move off of Baker in Cleveland and they got Matt Stafford, him throwing to Odell, handed off to Nick Chubb? I mean, probably wouldn't happen, but it'd be a lot of fun if it did.
Well, they got the Lions, it's not like they don't have weapons. They got guys. TJ Hawkinson, Kenny Golladay, DeAndre Swift looks like he could be pretty good.
I mean, at one point they had Megatron. That's how bad this offense is, or this franchise is.
Yeah, exactly. So if a new regime can come in and be and be able to, elevate the talent around Stafford, they could. It could be kind of a surprise franchise, maybe. I just don't get why, if anyone thought that hiring Matt Patricia was a good idea. Like when he got hired, who was like hyping that up, you know? Like I don't
Bill Belichick doesn't have a great coaching tree. His coaching tree is notoriously awful, which shows
it's
how
just
good he
Vrabel,
is.
right? Right now, it's just Vrabel.
Yeah,
Isn't the guy
yeah.
from isn't the interim coach for Houston one of his former guys?
Oh, maybe I'd have to go back. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know
I
off the
think
top
it's
of my
just
head.
He's doing an alright
Vrabel.
job though.
Like I don't know. Just sometimes when
No,
it comes to
Brian
these,
Flores is a former.
that's right.
Flores
He
is
was.
doing
Flores
good, and
doing
Flores
good
is
right
awesome.
now. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes these coaching hires, you know, you just, I don't know. If casual NFL fans can sit
Adam
back,
Gase.
yeah, like if casual NFL fans can sit back and be like, "That's such a dumb idea. What are you thinking?" Like, why? How are these higher ups thinking like they're brilliant moves? I know Patricia had like a good defense and all that, but I don't know. Like what? I don't know. It just wasn't. It still didn't make sense. Like it still wasn't a pick where anyone, even the fan base, was like, "Oh yeah, this is the guy." So
yeah, and I hope they can
those
get
things
a guy.
don't make sense to me.
I do hope, you know, the Lions, it's, you know, every division has the team that you kind of, you know, when you have your favorite team. For me, it's the Packers. I like the Lions. I'm indifferent to the Vikings, and I don't like the Bears. You know, I'd be fine with seeing them succeed because I think Matt Stafford deserves some national attention for all the things he's done. And, you know, if he had a lot of weapons or just a good franchise around him, I think he would have, you know, I don't think he's never won a playoff game before. I think he's only played in 2. It's never good when Kirk Cousins has won one more playoff game than you, and same with Blake Bortles. So
yeah, no kidding. Bortles went to an AFC championship. Jeez, remember that year?
Yeah, remember when he went toe-to-toe with our boy Ben Roethlisberger when he had the best receiver and running back in the NFL and couldn't beat Blake Bortles? That
defense was pretty good, though. I don't know. Anyway, that's a different.
I have one final quick thing to end this show on.
Yeah, let's.
I was thinking we just go over some surprises or any last thoughts on the NFL moving forward.
My last thought.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kyle. No, I want to end the show with this.
You want to end it?
You go, Alex.
So
you go. I insist.
All right, you end it. I'm ready. I'm ready to hear your take. It better not be.
You're gonna hate it.
No.
Oh boy.
It better not be what? What were you gonna think it was?
Better not be the fact that Jordan Love has raked in $7 million. He's never been activated.
I wish they wouldn't activate Jalen Hurts just so then it would be a little bit better for Wentz's confidence, but nope. It is about our game, Kyle, and
oh boy.
I really like DK Metcalf, but if you for 1 second think DK Metcalf didn't start that fight, you are an idiot. You are an idiot. He starts the fight, then he comes back and hits him, then Darius is like, I'm done with you, and starts shoving, and then apparently DK walks away.
Yeah,
I went back, I was so frustrated at that fight that I rewind it and watched it 3 times because we knew people who were telling me that DK walked away and Darius Slay needed to back off.
He walked away after starting it
3 times. And I was like, walked away when 50 people get in the middle of that fight and shove him. Your Hawks are always fighting, and I am sick of it.
No, I agree with you. DK started that. He should have gotten the flag, not Darius. I totally agree with you. I saw the replay of that, and I was like, wait a minute.
I said out loud, if Darius gets ejected, I'm throwing this bottle at the TV that I don't own. The bottle I was drinking out of.
He was drinking soda pop, kids.
Apple juice. And I was like, I am throwing this at this TV. Are you kidding me?
You might have to refresh me a little bit, Kyle and Alex, because we all watched this game a couple weeks ago. But didn't DK also start something in the Cardinals game? And it was worse because Kirkpatrick threw a punch. I can't remember if it was DK who started it.
No,
I feel like this. What didn't someone on the Seahawks start it, and then the Cardinals ended up falling for the bait, and Kirkpatrick threw the punch, and it literally almost cost the Cardinals the game?
No,
didn't that happen?
Not in that situation. What happened was that Drake Kirkpatrick finally stopped Tyler Lockett on a route for once because Kirkpatrick's a bum, and he just was getting torched by Lockett that whole game. So finally, when he stopped him, he was kind of over him, taunting him a little, and DK did come over and get a bit chirpy with him, but it was Kirkpatrick that was the one getting fired up about it, and that's why he got the flag. that one. But I will say this about DK. The one thing that's frustrating about him is that he's chirpy and it's fun, but every game, like, it gets to where, those almost brawls come out, and I don't want it to go to that
You're
level.
not used to it after the last 8 years. Your team has probably started more fights than any other team in the league.
Well, yes, to be fair, but
That's
I don't.
Pete's culture, I feel like.
It is
Fired up.
it is to an extent. I think DK's trying to show that he's one of the best in the league. Which,
Look,
hey,
if you're
that's
going to
fine.
keep doing that, take the binky off your thing. It was
No,
funny
that
as a
Binky's
rookie.
awesome.
It was funny, but if you're now going to be the chirp guy, you can't also advertise that you're a baby.
The only
love
he
the Binky.
he can chirp.
Yeah,
I'm fine with the chirping.
Only if he doesn't get hit in the face with the football right through his hands in the middle of the end zone.
That was on him. To be fair, but I'm just saying, I'm getting tired of him like overblowing the chirpiness to where it almost leads into fights. Like, I get it. Like, you have a chip on your shoulder. You got drafted at the end of the second round. Like, people doubted you, yada, yada, yada. But it's year 2. You're showing that you're a baller.
He's a beast.
You got drafted with Russell Wilson. Just enjoy it, man. You can be chirpy, but you don't need to be blowing up on people.
I'm excited.
That's a bit much.
Fight.
It's a
We
bit.
should all
He
be
did start that
excited
fight.
for the last 2 weeks of the season. We're gonna get the Seahawks battling for the 1 seed. DK Metcalf's balling out. He's probably going for the lead league in yards, and he's going to go up against Jalen Ramsey and Richard Sherman in back-to-back weeks.
He will be playing Richard Sherman.
Popcorn.
Jalen Ramsey
That'll be
dominated him when you first played.
Oh yeah.
Dominated.
He showed up. Ramsey's really good.
And so is Sherman, but DK is also a second-year guy. Like, there might be some moments of him not dominating, but his stats are unbelievably similar to Calvin Johnson's in his second year, which is terrifying.
Almost all better.
Yeah, I mean,
but to be fair, you also throw 45 times a game.
Not these. Well, yes, but not these past 2 weeks. But yeah, for the most part, we've been throwing a lot.
Yeah, you've thrown a lot. You've thrown a lot.
Throw less than Patty.
Throw less than Patty? Well, so does everyone.
And Ben throws the ball a lot.
He threw like 50 times in this game.
Yeah.
Yep. But that was just all kinds of weird anyway.
I'm excited for that matchup at the end of the year. It's always fun when you get marquee, DK going up against back-to-back weeks against 2 of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. Obviously, Richard Sherman, he's probably regressed a little bit, but it'll be that should be some fun times to watch. And then
that's the division, man. It's just that competitive.
Yep.
It's fun, but it's annoying.
Well, any last thoughts, or we ending this on Alex's rant about DK? That I didn't even see that moment, to be honest. I actually was away when that happened, and I saw you guys freaking out, and I was like, I don't care.
You're like, I'll sit this one out.
Walked away. Get out of town.
I just want to say I'm annoyed that the NFL didn't push back the Saints-Broncos game. Like, that was just such a crummy situation for the Broncos. Like, just push it back to Tuesday or Wednesday, or like what? I get, like, it's not as big of a deal as like Steelers and Ravens, but like, come on, like, give them a shot too. Like, with all this COVID stuff, like, that's a bit silly to me.
Yeah, I guess they just did it because it was only the quarterback's room and it didn't spread throughout.
But they lost all 4 of their quarterbacks.
Yeah,
they had no one. I don't know. It was just frustrating. But
haven't the Raiders played a game with like missing a ton of their offensive linemen and played a game missing
part of their defense, but they still had backups and guys to use. Like, they lost their entire quarterback room. They had to get, I don't know, maybe some bum from Walmart. I mean, he played admirably, so calling him a bum.
That game was
fair.
They promoted a wide receiver from the practice squad who had played quarterback before.
Yeah,
which was made sense.
But he hadn't played in it. Like, he was
years.
He hasn't been on the practice squad that long, I don't think, when they signed him, and so it was a cool story. But that game was tough to watch with him, and then Taysom Hill making a mess of things on the other side as well. Wild time in the NFL, and it's really also it's going to be about what obviously the Seahawks have done a great job. All 3 of our teams have done pretty good. No marquee players really have gotten COVID for the Packers, just a couple of guys. Zero for the Hawks. I think only a couple for the Eagles, right?
They were
So-
exposed. Nobody's had the actual
Yeah.
disease.
Gotcha.
But it could be a big thing, especially in the NFC, like we talk about.
I think
If someone gets decimated with COVID before the playoffs, it's going to be brutal.
I think the Hawks are lying about it, and they're playing through.
I hope that's not the case.
It's either that or
believe
the
it,
magic
Joe.
of bubble water.
That would not be in a good look. Hey, that bubble water does magic. So if it's curing COVID, I'm fine with it.
Nick, you look confused.
I don't really remember the bubble water.
You should remember this, Nick.
It was one year Russ got hit in the head, and he's like, I have the special bubble water that made sure that I don't get it concussed.
It was after.
Yeah. To be honest, as a Packers fan, when Russ talks, I try to get it out of my mind when I hear him talk.
It was after I believe the Packers playoff game where we made that comeback. He got hit so many times in that game.
And people were like, "Hey, and still won."
Yeah. Well, hey, go Hawks, am I right? And people were like, "Hey, are you okay?
Richard.
You got hit a lot." And he's like, "Yeah, I got this great water that does the trick." And I don't know if it's
well,
true
no
or not.
wonder I
haven't heard
wasn't
anything
paying
about it
attention
since.
because I was raging.
You were locked
after
in a
that
room
game.
for 2 weeks.
Still am.
Still am.
Left.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for checking out this episode. We had just kind of a free talk there at the end. Got back to our Seahawk hatred for Alex and I, and Kyle's
felt
trying
that
to defend
since
his boys.
episode
I don't even know if I'll be on next week after the next beating.
Oh, hey, but it's all in support of Aaron Rodgers' MVP campaign, right?
I won't bow, but I
Now,
Support
when
him.
you come in with that kind of logic, I'm all for losing. But if this guy comes in swinging and then I'm over it. Bubble water.
Yeah. All right. Well, make sure to check us out on the old Twitter,
I guess.
Instagram,
Yeah,
everywhere.
Do that.
All right. See you, everybody. Thanks for
Goodbye.
watching. This is horrible.
Bye.
Hogs, baby.
Audio Jungle.